Understanding the economy is not everyone's cup of tea, especially when 1 minute it talks of animals, tiger economies, bears, and bulls, then promptly talks of acronyms, laws, theorems, and numbers in another. Managing the economy for an entire country is even more so difficult, especially since it talks not only of the wealth of the country, but also of the life and survival of its citizens. At the onset of the Duterte administration, much concern has been raised regarding the president's economic policies. The Philippines' growth momentum has seen a steady increase, away from the slump it suffered sometime in 1998. But critics were quick to point out that this growth may be cut short under the current administration, as it unapologetically zeroes in on law and order and the eradication of corruption. But contrary to the initial apprehensions, the country has kept its strong growth performance and is expected to sustain it, with GDP forecast to increase by 6.8% and 6.7% in 2017 and 2018 respectively. Fitch Ratings has recently affirmed the Philippines' long-term foreign and local currency issuer default ratings at BBB with a positive outlook. This reflects a robust net external creditor position and government debt levels that are lower than the median of peers in the BBB rating category. In addition, the Philippine Peso-US dollar exchange rate and the Philippine Stock Exchange breached the 7,600 level. Peso has strengthened back to the 49 peso level against the dollar, and the Philippine Stock Exchange Index is up 0.45% to 7,617.91, its highest level in 6 months. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas figures also reveal that the net inflow of foreign direct investments increased 13.2% in January to $685 million from $605 million a year ago. Philippines remains one of the world's fastest growing economies, and the government intends to keep it that way. A 50% economic growth, or one that will lift 6 million Filipinos out of poverty and bring the Philippines to upper middle income status, is what the administration seeks to accomplish, as laid down in the Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022. Basically, the plan is to lay a stronger foundation for inclusive growth, a high-trust society, and a globally competitive economy toward realizing the vision by 2040. Malasakit, pagbabago, at patuloy na pag-unlad. These are the 3 pillars that shall be used to achieve the targets. Thus, social fabric shall be enhanced, inequality reduced, and growth potential increased. So when one seeks to understand what the economic policies under the Duterte administration really mean, one only needs to picture the Philippines as a country of prosperous middle-class society, where no one is poor, a home to people who can afford to live long and healthy lives.
It is my honor to open this gathering, very aptly called the Dutertenomics Forum.
Together, hindi lang ho kami, we will build.
A golden age of infrastructure.
Agriculture simply multiplies.
Make the lives of our people better.
Reduce poverty.
And how the Duterte administration
Govern and chart the nation's future.
Sharply rising on the most ambitious
Build portal.
Well, I'd like to declare that Dutertenomics is on the right track.
afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gary Olivar. I'll be moderating today's forum. Attorney Salvador C. Medialdea is the Executive Secretary of the Philippines. Attorney Medialdea is a successful practicing lawyer and served as trustee and administrator of the Livelihood Corporation and chairman of the Guarantee Fund for Small and Medium Enterprises and Northern Foods Corporation. He earned his Bachelor of Science in Commerce from Colegio de San Juan de Letran and his Bachelor of Laws degree from San Beda College. Ladies and gentlemen, the Executive Secretary.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is again my distinct honor and privilege to open this gathering of distinguished economic managers, local and international business leaders and entrepreneurs, captains of industry, and representatives of chambers of commerce, very aptly called the Dutertenomics Forum. I commend the Department of Finance, the Presidential Communications Operations Office, and the Center for Strategy, Enterprise, and Intelligence for convening this second forum to foster awareness of President Duterte's economic and development blueprint for the Philippines. The seed of Dutertenomics germinated with a simple yet pragmatic economic strategy. The President's marching order upon his assumption to office was in fact non-economic in character. Rid the streets of criminals, free our people from the scourge of drug abuse, bring lasting peace to our southern islands, and neutralize terrorist and extremist groups. The underlying concept was easy to understand. Restore peace and order and the rule of law, and everything else would follow, including economic and social development. Almost a year has passed since the new administration took the reins of government, and we now see the President's economic strategy starting to bear fruit. There is a heightened sense of security among the citizenry and enhanced confidence in the business community. The environmental framework has been set to nurture stable growth and development, to harness the onrush of economic activity expectedly resulting from a more orderly society. However, we also realize for a structured approach, and this is where our economic planners and managers enter the picture and take center stage. The blueprint, which we call Dutertenomics, is anchored upon a 10-point socio-economic agenda of the Duterte administration, which focuses on the adoption of progressive tax reform package and measures designed to bring about increased competitiveness, accelerated infrastructure spending, and improved social amelioration and development programs. Needless to say, we shall continue current policies that have successfully contained inflation, stabilized foreign exchange, and attracted foreign investments. The President will also continue to give special attention to the well-being of millions of overseas Filipino workers who have become a constant and reliable source of national income until this government has created enough opportunities to attract them back to their homeland. All this will be presented to us in a greater detail in this afternoon by the President's economic managers and our partners in the private business sector. On behalf of President Duterte, I wish you all a meaningful and productive forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary Medialdea. Our keynote speaker is the Secretary of Finance, Carlos G. Dominguez III. He served as Secretary of the Environment and Natural Resources and Agriculture under President Corazon Aquino, and as President of leading Philippine corporations such as Philippine Airlines, the Philippine Associated Smelting and Refining Corporation, or PASARCO, and the former BPI Agricultural Bank. He holds an MBA degree from Ateneo de Manila University and attended the Executive Management Program at Stanford University. Ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Dominguez.
Executive Secretary Salvador Medildea, honorable colleagues in the cabinet and the government partners from the business community and the media, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This forum seeks to provide a comprehensive overview of the economic program of the Duterte administration. This program needs wider public discussion and a broader base of support. The 10-point economic program of the Duterte administration takes into account the large trends defining our economic opportunities. These economic opportunities bear real fruit only if they are undertaken with audacious policymaking. On one hand, the Philippine economy enjoys what may be called a Cinderella moment. It took us many years to rebuild from both the debt crisis of the mid-80s and the Asian financial crisis of the late 90s. Those years required us to undertake austerity measures. These measures, in turn, led us to underinvest in infrastructure. During that difficult period, our neighbors in the region spent about twice what we did in modernizing their infrastructure. We have completed our fiscal consolidation. Our credit ratings attest to that. The debt burden is no longer a drag on our economic growth. We can now reshape our economic development so that it is investment-led. This, in turn, will open the door to a truly inclusive economy. The investment-led growth pattern creates jobs and opens more economic opportunities for our people. We are now actively seeking investments not only to rebuild our depleted manufacturing sector, but also to capitalize our agriculture to make it more efficient. On the other hand, the Philippines now looks forward to what has been called a demographic sweet spot. As the populations of some of the more mature economies in Asia begin to age, we are looking forward to the entry of millions of young Filipinos into the workforce. We must invest in them and make them globally competitive. We must prepare the economy to provide meaningful jobs for them, or else risk building an alienated and discontented generation. The demographic sweet spot is both a challenge and an opportunity. It is a test of our ability to govern and chart the nation's future. Seizing the opportunities offered by this demographic advantage requires shaping our country's economic development beginning at this time. We must build a truly inclusive economy. To do so, our economy should be investment-led, creating new jobs and opening opportunities for all. In the decades when we neglected our infra, while our neighbors rapidly built up theirs, we lost out on competitiveness. For an archipelagic country, poor infrastructure is debilitating. It raises the cost of transporting goods between islands. That is the reason our food price regime is high. Our congested roads and ports discouraged investors who need to operate on just-in-time deliveries. Our high power costs and unstable supply discouraged investments in manufacturing. If we examine all the reasons why the Philippines fell behind the other economies of this dynamic region, it has much to do with poor infrastructure. It is here where we should begin rebuilding our competitiveness. There are a number of other reasons as well. Our personal and income tax rates are higher than the rest of the region. We cannot expect companies to set up shop here if we tax them more than our neighbors do. Realigning our income tax rates is a measure intended not only to increase disposable income of the workers, but also raise our economy's competitiveness. Our program of infrastructure build-up will entail trillions in economic investments. We need to undertake these investments for the sake of the next generation of Filipinos, or else they will remain in the same poverty trap we found ourselves in. Later in today's program, we will outline specific infra projects in the pipeline to be presented by the Department of Transportation, the DPWH, and the BCDA. Realigning income tax rates, however, will bring down revenues, even as we improve tax administration and broaden the tax base. This means we have to introduce new revenue measures that will not only compensate for lower tax rates, but also fund the massive infra program that commences now. The comprehensive tax reform package, therefore, is a key link in the grand effort to break out from the cycle of low growth and build a dynamic and inclusive economy for our people. The tax reform package will support investments in human capital, upgrading the educational system, and providing quality health care. It is a proactive and pro-poor measure that supports the expansionary fiscal posture of the present administration. In a word, the comprehensive tax reform program is an indispensable component of the Duterte administration's economic strategy. This is an audacious strategy that seeks to lift our country to middle-income status by 2022 and high-income status by 2040. We do not intend to fail in meeting the challenges of this time. We may no longer enjoy the happy conjuncture of low interest rates, market liquidity, a benign oil price regime, a strong support of countries like China and Japan, and an investment-grade credit rating and a young labor force. This is the time to move decisively. Fortunately, we have a leader capable of much audacity. We have a leader of vision and intense love of country. All the favorable factors are present. It is time for a breakout. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Dominguez. Our next speaker is Undersecretary Adoracion M. Navarro from the National Economic and Development Authority. Undersecretary Navarro heads the Regional Development Office of NEDA. Before coming to NEDA, she was a Senior Research Fellow at the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, or PIDS, where she conducted policy research since 2012. She was also acting Vice President of the Institute in 2015. She holds a PhD in Economics from the University of the Philippines in Diliman and an MPA major in Economic Policy Management from Columbia University in New York. Ladies and gentlemen, Undersecretary Navarro.
Good day. They're supposed to show a video, so let's wait a little bit.
Sana gusto ko lang na yung magbigay na sila ng sapat na sahod dito sa Pilipinas kasi mahirap maging mang ibang bansa.
Kung sana yung gobyerno natin makapag-isip na i-utilize nila kami sa trabaho ng oil and gas. May potential po ang Pilipinas. Yung sinasabi nilang Scarborough Shoal, yung Benham Rice. Kung pwede nating utilize yung mga kuan doon. At kami yung kukunin nila. Maraming manggagaling pong mga tao sa oil and gas na Pilipino.
Again, good day to all, ladies and gentlemen. Gentlemen, on behalf of Secretary Pernia, I am pleased to present to you the country's recent economic performance and outlook, as well as the Duterte administration's medium-term development plan 2017-2022, focusing on our strategies for infrastructure development as one of the foundations for sustained economic growth. Okay. So next slide. First, let me present our economic performance in recent years. In 2016, we've seen our economy growing at a brisk rate of 6.9% from 5.9% in 2015. This is on the high end of the government's target of 6 to 7% growth rate for the year. And this makes the Philippines as one of the fastest, if not the fastest, rising economies in Asia today, faster than China, which grew by 6.7%, and Vietnam, which grew by 6.2%. This growth performance also brings the 7-year moving average of real GDP growth rate to 6.3%, the highest since 1978. Next slide. Now, this table details the sources of growth, or where exactly growth is coming from. On the supply side or production side, growth in the services sector improved to 7.4%, and industry grew by 8.4% last year. However, agricultural growth was a letdown, and you can see that in the first and second quarter. It recovered in the third quarter, but it reverted to negative territory in the fourth quarter, and for the whole of 2016, it's negative because the country until now is reeling from the effects of typhoons Karen and Lawin. If not for these typhoons, real GDP growth could have hit closer to 7% in 2016, as we had originally hoped. Domestic demand continued to fuel growth throughout 2016. A robust expansion in investments, growing 25.2% in 2016 was seen. Public investment in infrastructure remains strong, with public construction growing by 28%. Private consumption grew by 7% in 2016, and all this is attributed to high consumer confidence, which, by the way, is continuing, modest inflation and interest rates, and improving labor market conditions. External demand, as you can see from the exports figures, expanded by 10.7%, with merchandise exports rising by 9.2%, and exports of services maintaining its double-digit growth of 6.2%. Growth in imports accelerated by 8.5%, and this reflects higher purchases of capital and durable goods, which supports our build strategy. And, of course, sustainable and inclusive growth. Next slide. Now, let's look at the transformation in the economy. And this figure shows that the composition of our economic growth on the demand or spending side is worth noting because, for one, we observe the increasing contribution of investments, the orange shade. And for the whole of 2016, investment as a share of GDP has reached 24% from 19% in 2009. On the production side, on the right portion, this resurgence of industry, especially manufacturing, the blue shade, implies that the quality of growth is improving. Let me add that in recent years, the total factor productivity growth in the Philippines has been the fastest in ASEAN at 2.3%. Likewise, capital efficiency, the incremental capital output ratio, has been improving. We believe that the process of structural transformation of the economy is taking place, which is crucial to sustaining growth and generating more stable quality jobs. Now, next slide. Let's look at the average regional shares in GDP. So looking across regions, we can see that the country's GDP in recent years remains concentrated in the mega Manila regions, namely the National Capital Region, the Calabarzon region or Region 4A, and the Central Luzon region or Region 3, which collectively accounted for about 62% of total GDP for the period 2020 to 2015. And we're gonna change that through more connectivity enhancing infrastructure by connecting the other regions to the growth centers. Okay, next slide. Now, the upbeat view on the Philippine economy is shared by private sector institutions and international organizations. As you can see from this table, the growth projections are converging to a median of 6.5% this year and also next year, and mean of 6.5%. Now, next slide. The expected drivers of growth. On the demand side, we anticipate that it will continue to be household consumption, pushed by remittance inflows, better employment prospects, strong consumer confidence, and maintained low inflation, low interest rate. And then, of course, government spending. You'll hear more about that later from Secretary Jokno. And then investment. We are implementing a manufacturing resurgence program. Then faster implementation of PPPs, faster than what the last administration did, and quicker execution of major public infrastructure projects, exports of services, IT business process management, and tourism. On the supply side or on the production side, we expect and we intend to have a resurgence of agriculture and fishery. We plan to strengthen our BIFAR, the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. And the Department of Trade and Industry is leading a transition to the second phase of the Manufacturing Resurgence Program. There will be a boost in construction industry from government spending, an aggressive government spending for infrastructure. And we expect an influx of inbound tourists. We hope to recover. And then expansion in retail trade and the continuing growth of the IT BPM sector. Now, recent uncertainties. Notwithstanding the positive outlook, we remain vigilant and well-positioned against the downside risks to growth. So we recognize this risk, the fragile growth in the Japan, in the advanced economies Japan and the European Union, slowdown in large emerging economies, particularly China, uncertain policy shifts in the US, gradually being protectionist, and then asynchronous monetary policies in the world's major economies, greater volatility in capital flows, oil price volatility and geopolitical risks. But these are well-known risks, and we can well anticipate them. On the domestic risks, we have, again, weather disturbances year in, year out, we have that. And then logistics bottlenecks, which the government is already addressing, and delays in government infrastructure and reconstruction projects, and we really intend to get serious about this. The closure of mines, it's a huge challenge. Policy inconsistencies, we rely on the economic managers to push for this, and socio-political uncertainties. And we are pursuing this partly through the peace talks, the peace negotiation process, and I'm glad to be part of it. Now, next slide. Anchored on the country's long-term vision, or the Ambition Natin 2040, and the President's 10-point socioeconomic agenda, the next slides provide a brief discussion on the strategic framework of the Philippine Development Plan 2017-2022, our economic blueprint. Next slide. Okay, this snapshot shows you first, the objective. The objective is that by the end of 2022, more Filipinos will be closer to achieving our ambition, our long-term vision for a matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay. The Philippine Development Plan will aim to lay down a solid foundation for more inclusive growth, a high-trust society and resilient society, and a globally competitive knowledge economy. So the strategies fall under the three major pillars of malasakit, enhancing the social fabric, pagbabago, inequality, reducing transformation, at patuloy na pag-unlad, increasing growth potential. In enhancing the social fabric, the aim is to regain people's trust in public institutions and cultivate trust in fellow Filipinos. Chapter 5 of the Philippine Development Plan talks about public offices being people-centered, efficient, and clean, while administration of justice will be swift and fair, and that's in Chapter 6. Filipinos will be more aware of and will learn to value the country's diverse cultures and shared heritage, that's in Chapter 7. Inequality reducing transformation or pagbabago in that pillar. For each economic sector, this means more opportunities for growth of output and income. Lagging subsectors and economic groups like small farmers and fisher folks, medium and small-scale enterprises will benefit from this, and those are discussed in chapters 8 and 9 of the PDP. Individuals and people groups will have more options to develop their full potential, that's in chapter 10, and vulnerability of individuals will be reduced, that's discussed in chapter 11. Communities will be more resilient in line with the new urban agenda of integrated neighborhoods and sustainable communities, that's in chapter 12. Increasing potential growth. We aim to do this by further enhancing or further reaching for and harvesting the demographic dividend that's discussed in chapter 13. Also, the foundations for a knowledge economy is needed, given that a vibrant knowledge economy will propel the country on a higher growth path since it produces higher value output and is more resilient to geoclimatic shocks. That's discussed in chapter 14. Enabling and supportive economic environment. More inclusive growth will be achieved with an enabling and supportive economic environment through maintaining macroeconomic stability. Fiscal prudence will be observed. Strategic trade and trade policy will be implemented. That's in chapter 15. Policies, laws, and regulations will be reviewed, and measures will be undertaken to enhance market competition. That's in chapter 16. The foundations for sustainable development. That's the underpinning pillar, and it will be ensured by pursuing strategies related to national security against internal and external threats. That's in chapter 17. At the same time, territorial integrity and sovereignty will be upheld and protected, and that's discussed in chapter 18. Chapter 19 talks about infrastructure. So the next 6 years will be characterized as the golden age of infrastructure. Related to that, maintaining the ecological integrity, and that's in chapter 20. An important partner of development is the environment and natural resources sector. That's why we have to formulate strategies for that also. Migration and development are also discussed, and the PDP gives deliberate attention to the special circumstances of overseas Filipinos and their families. For more details, please visit the NEDA website. An electronic copy is available for download. Next slide. Okay, as I mentioned in the previous slide, one of the foundations for a sustained economic development is infrastructure development. As a bedrock strategy, it will support all three pillars of the PDP, malasakit, pagbabago, at patuloy na pag-unlad. Characterized as the golden age of infrastructure in the Philippines, the implementation of the country's medium-term infrastructure program constitutes policy reforms, programs, and projects designed to accelerate infrastructure development. Now, there's also a discussion of national spatial strategy in the Philippine Development Plan. Pursuant to the realization of inclusive development, the plan espouses this NSS to set the direction of future growth. We recognize population, geography, and the role of cities as engines of economic growth. We therefore will design infrastructure that will provide efficient connectivity and create networks of urban and rural communities consistent with our long-term vision. Next slide. So, what are the component strategies? Firstly, the National Spatial Strategy seeks to build on the efficiencies and maximize the benefits of scale and agglomeration economies. It aims to decongest NCR, or the National Capital Region, or Metro Manila, and direct growth to key centers throughout the country. Next slide. The second component strategy is to connect the settlements to form an efficient network. This means improving linkages among settlements and key production areas by connecting rural areas to growth centers or strengthening urban-rural linkages. Next slide. Lastly, the National Spatial Strategy seeks to make vulnerability reduction an integral part of development. And NEDA, as vice chair, one of the vice chairs of the National Disaster Risk and Reduction Management Council, is actively helping implement this strategy. So this strategy involves instituting prevention and mitigation measures to reduce the impact of natural disasters on the communities. Now, we also have the 3-year rolling infrastructure program. There is, by the way, a medium-term public investment program, which will be an accompanying document for the PDP. Now, we have formulated the 3-year rolling infrastructure program, and this is a subset of the larger PIP. For fiscal year 2018 to 2020, we anticipate to have an investment program of 14.88 billion pesos. In dollar terms, that's roughly $80 billion. So the golden age of infrastructure in the Philippines has begun and is currently implemented through the massive infrastructure spending covering transport, water resources sector, energy, information and communication technology, social infrastructure like education facilities and housing, and solid waste. Part of the policy reforms is to increase expenditure efficiency by enhancing the linkage of planning, programming, and budgeting processes of the government. This TRIP contains nationally funded infrastructure programs and projects based on the synchronized planning, budgeting, and programming processes. The TRIP will be implemented and updated to optimize the use of agency budget allocations towards addressing underspending, expenditure realignments, and cost overruns. Moreover, policies to improve and streamline government approval processes for major public investment projects have already been put in place. The country is also exploring hybrid financing arrangements for some of the projects. By the way, I don't have it in my slides, but I was informed that some people are wondering about the investment program being quite Luzon-centric. I have the regional breakdown with me, and based on the amounts, well, yes, the National Capital Region gets most of the investments in terms of amount. It's number 1. But the second is Region 11, or the Davao region, and the third is ARMM. But in terms of number of projects, the first is ARRM, or the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, and the NCR is only second, and then third is Region 2. Okay, next slide. Public-private partnership projects. Public spending will be complemented by private investments in public infrastructure. As of March 28, 2017, as you can see from the figures, a total of 15 national projects worth 310.51 billion pesos are already under implementation, and another 40 projects are in the pipeline. 9 projects undergoing various stages of procurement, 2 projects undergoing ICC approval, or Investment Coordination Committee approval, and NEDA board approval, NEDA board headed by the President. 8 projects are for agency evaluation, and 21 projects are for conceptualization. So with the right policies, further improvements in productivity, and greater participation in reforms, we can be an upper middle income by 2022, with growth that is holistic and inclusive.
Before I introduce the next speaker, I'd like to quickly recap the remarks that we've heard so far. First, we heard the Executive Secretary segueing for rule of law, moving to his economic program. Then we heard the Finance Secretary lay the groundwork for our current leap of growth, talking about how we achieve fiscal strength, and on the basis of fiscal strength, be able to move into investment-led growth. And from the National Economic and Development Authority, the program of infrastructure spending and investment-led growth, moving into bringing the benefits of growth to a wider area of our country and levels of society, and therefore also making them more productive economically. Now, before the next and big part of our program will, of course, be the infrastructure program. But before we go there, we will hear the Budget Secretary talking about how exactly we will accelerate spending through our fiscal program and making sure that we cover this bill, $8 trillion pesos that we hope to spend in the next 6 years. The Secretary of Budget is Dr. Benjamin Diokno, on his 3rd tour of duty in this position at the Department of Budget and Management. He is Professor Emeritus at the University of the Philippines. He was Fiscal Advisor to the Philippine Senate, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Philippine National Oil Company, and Chairman of the Local Water Utilities Administration. He earned his bachelor's and master's degrees in public administration and master's degree in economics from the University of the Philippines, his Master of Arts in Political Economy from Johns Hopkins University, and his doctorate in economics from Syracuse University. Before we invite Secretary Diokno to tell us about the fiscal program, there's a short video that we will show you. Thank you.
Dapat pondohan ng gobyerno ang school system natin kasi importante ang education para sa youth and sa future ng ating bansa. Books, quality education, tsaka funding ng mga teachers.
Dapat po nilang pondohan is more on the concrete buildings po talaga ng yung ginagamit po nila para sa relocation. Tsaka kailangan po siguraduhin din po nila na meron po talagang mga pangkabuhayan po talaga doon kasi ilalayo po nila yun sa mga taong kukunin na rin sa place na tinitira nila dati.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to share with you today the bold plans and lofty goals of the Duterte administration. We now have the necessary conditions and the right formula to successfully transform the country into the Asian tiger that it is capable of becoming. For quite some time now, the Philippine economy has enjoyed strong macroeconomic fundamentals that enables it to weather external headwinds. Combining this with crucial policy reforms and the trademark political will and efficient implementation of this administration, I am confident that we can successfully lay the groundwork for a robust, wealth-generating, and wealth-distributing Philippine economy. We are committed in promoting rapid and inclusive growth. Now, all right, our plan is not only to sustain growth at 7 to 8% in the medium term, but also to reduce poverty to 14% from 21.6% in 2015. During the last 10 years, poverty has been cut by 0.5% on an annual basis. We intend to reduce it by 1.25 to 1.5% every year. So that's a big challenge. And by the time we step down, we envision the Philippine economy to be in high middle income territory. So our compass is the Philippine Development Plan and the 0+10-point socioeconomic agenda. And in line with our development blueprint, we have put in place a fiscal policy that will facilitate the achievement of our medium-term goals. So first, we have increased the planned deficit from 2 to 3% of GDP. 1% of GDP, that's the difference. gave me an additional 150 to 200 billion pesos per year. So that's the purpose for the higher deficit. And we plan to sustain this level until 2022. And this is to finance our infrastructure needs and also our investment in human capital. This implies a deficit target of 482 billion in 2017, rising to 777 billion in 2022. Our borrowings will have an 80-20 mix in favor of domestic borrowing. So we borrow more domestically. There's a lot of money floating around, so we borrow more domestically. And this financing mix also will minimize our exposure to foreign exchange fluctuations and enable us to better manage our debt. Now, to the faint-hearted and the fiscal conservatives, let me assure you that our budget strategy is sound, appropriate, and sustainable. Despite the deficit trajectory, the debt-to-GDP ratio will continue to fall as we expect GDP growth to outpace the rise in debt accumulation. The debt-to-GDP ratio is expected to shrink from 42% in 2016 to 36% in 2022. With this debt profile, we earn the envy of most developed and developing countries in the world, facing much higher debt to GDP ratios. Now, our borrowings will be complemented by increased revenue collection resulting from improved tax administration and the new revenue measures proposed by the Department of Finance. This will raise the revenue effort, defined as revenues as percent of GDP, to 15.2% of GDP in 2017 and is steadily increasing to 17.7% in 2022. The new revenue measures will contribute roughly 1% of GDP annually over the medium term. The simple truth is that we need the expansionary fiscal policy to fuel our huge investments on public infrastructure and social services, aspects of the Philippine economy that require urgent attention. Analysts and academicians have long cited our poor and crumbling infrastructure as a constraint to growth and investments. Poor infrastructure hampers economic productivity, trade mobility, and accessibility of public services. One only needs to observe and experience the painstakingly slow Metro Manila traffic to arrive at such a conclusion. Quantified, the traffic congestion cost the economy at least 2.4 billion daily, or 876 billion yearly, according to a JICA study in 2014. This is a staggering loss for the country. It is for these reasons that infrastructure development will be the top priority of the Duterte administration. As mentioned in the previous infrastructure session, we will spend 8 to 9 trillion, let me repeat that, 8 to 9 trillion in public infrastructure for the next 6 years, from 2017 to 2022, to make up for past neglect and to realize what we call the golden age of infrastructure. For fiscal year 2017 alone, this year, 847 billion, or 5.3% of GDP, is allocated for infrastructure development. The annual infrastructure spending will be ramped up, reaching as much as 7.4% of GDP in 2022. Mind you, for the last 50 years, the average infrastructure spending as percent of GDP has not gone up beyond 3%. It's averaged between 2 to 3%. This ambitious spending pattern will allow us to construct and modernize our roads, bridges, airports, seaports, flood control, and irrigation systems, among other facilities. My colleagues in the cabinet will explain all these projects to you later on. The government will use all possible modalities to forward the golden age of infrastructure, including local funding, public-private partnerships, and official development assistance. We will stay true to our promise of build, build, build. However, our preferred modality is the hybrid type, where the government selects, finances, and constructs the project, of course using the private sector through competitive bidding, and once done, will be the same to the private sector for operations and maintenance. We feel that through this modality, we can afford to provide essential public services to citizens at more affordable prices and in a sustained way. Now, another pressing concern is developing our young population into an agile and competent workforce. In an aging world, we have a young population whose median age is about 23 years. And we recognize that this can be an asset or a liability. Our best bet in maximizing our growth potential is to invest heavily in our greatest resource, which is our people. This is why 40% of the 2017 budget is allocated to social services, education, healthcare, social protection, among other things. Some of the major programs that we are currently funding include, of course, the K-12 program, conditional cash transfer program, the National Health Insurance program, and other also housing program. And we will not stop there. The government will sustain this level of support. In fact, the share of social sector's expenditures to GDP is planned to increase from 8.5% this year to 9.2% of GDP by 2022. We must take advantage of our demographic window, and this will largely depend on the productivity and quality of our labor force. This obviously requires higher investments on human capital development. Given our bold plans and lofty goals, implementation reforms are necessary to translate resources into value-adding programs and projects. But our policy reforms will amount to nothing if they remain mere concepts and ideals. Much like the President, we, the economic managers, give value to efficient and timely execution. Government spending must facilitate economic growth. This is basic economics. This means utilizing the national budget to the fullest extent authorized by law. Hence, we will continue to guard against underspending, the Waterloo of the previous administration. This is especially so since the budget for 2017 and future budgets will be bigger. Interestingly, last year's, meaning 2016, spending pattern shows some promise. Underspending has slowed down to 3.6%, driven by strong spending for infrastructure and other capital outlays. This is significantly less than 13.3% and 12.8% in 2014 and 2015, respectively. So once our budget reforms finally gain traction, we expect government spending rate to improve. And so below, I will just mention some of the budget reforms we have introduced. Number one, and this is not really a new concept. When I was appointed budget secretary under President Estrada, I adopted what you see is what you get concept of budget release. Because we spend one whole year preparing the budget, 6 months with the executive and 6 months in Congress. And after the passage of the budget, no department can spend a centavo until the Department of Budget released a document called Advice of Allotment. I said, that's crazy. We spend one whole year preparing the budget authorized by the Congress and signed by the President. Why can't we spend the budget? So I said, the budget itself is the release document. I adopted that what's that, 16 years ago. And it worked. But as soon as you know, the term of Mr. Estrada was kind of truncated, right? After Mr. Estrada left, they went back to the old system. I am putting it back. So the budget document is the release document. So that's the major change. We are also, well, revising. They always blame the procurement system. Well, they're talking to somebody who's been there in government, and this has been my passion, procurement reform. And this is a good law. Many international organizations, World Bank, ADB, IMF, they said this is the best law in the world. Okay, so they have used it as an excuse for their inefficiency. And so when we took over, I revised the implementing rules and regulations, and so now we're already on track. We will also geotag infrastructure projects to curb ghost projects. So we'll use drones and, of course, the internet or the satellite to monitor projects. So what else? All right, budget reform bill. We are adopting that to modernize our budget system. We are shifting from the usual 2-year obligation budgeting to just 1 year. You got to spend your money within 1 year, all right? So that also will speed up the process. On the revenue side, I sympathize with Secretary Dominguez here because this tax reform is taking so long, okay? This tax reform is a good one, okay? It's been supported by former finance secretaries, former NEDA secretaries, by the business sector, and so I don't understand why this is taking so long. But I think, given the push that we will exert, I'm optimistic that this will be passed within the year. Within the year. The tax reform will not only make the tax system simpler, fairer, and more efficient, it will also invite more investments and put more money in the pockets of 99% of the population. Among the reforms included in the first tax reform package are lower personal income tax rates with fewer brackets, because our tax system, personal income tax system, does not compare with the rest of the ASEAN 10. Broader value-added tax base, adjusted excise taxes on oil and automobiles. As a country, we should not get used to cheap oil, okay? Because we do not produce oil in this country. Inclusive of the tax administration reforms, the first tax package will net $206.8 billion in revenues for 2018. At the same time, the tax reform, as formulated by Secretary Dominguez, targeted transfers will be put in place to protect the poorest and the most vulnerable sectors that will be affected by the tax reform. So in essence, the tax reform package is a win-win proposition. It is a reform package that we wish our legislators would support enthusiastically. And I'm optimistic that our legislators will see the light and pass into law the first package before the end of the year. Now, clearly, the Duterte administration is serious in its pursuit for real change in the economy and the living standards of the Filipino people. Right now, our optimism is shared not only by the private sector, but also by the international community. After all, the Philippines is expected to be one of the fastest growing economies in the fastest growing region in the world. Our supportive fiscal policy, in tandem with sound macroeconomic fundamentals and socioeconomic interventions, will only boost our development prospects. Soon, we will get a glimpse of what a modern Philippines would look like: a first world infrastructure, better trained labor force, more decent jobs and higher wages, and effective and accountable governance. In closing, let me urge you to come and join us in this lofty goal of having a better, safer, fairer, more beautiful, and more prosperous Philippines. Thank you and mabuhay.
Thank you, Secretary Diokno. We will now be viewing a short video before moving on to our Build, Build, Build roundtable session.
Sa palagay ko, kailangan tuunan ng pansin ang infrastruktura sa internet. Kasi sa kapanahunan ngayon, marami ng pangailangan na online, booking, trabaho, businesses, lahat-lahat. At lagi tayo nahuhuli. Siguro, kailangan ayusin natin yun.
Ang dapat pondohan ng gobyerno ay siguro kalsada kasi parang buwasan yung traffic dito sa Manila.
Magkaroon ng mas magandang infrastruktura sa maraming, in many ways, of which we are already seeing it with the improvement here in the airport and also coming here to the airport with the Skyway, nabawasan na yung traffic natin, malaking kaluwagan sa mga kababayan natin.
Secretary Martin Andanar heads the Presidential Communications Office. He is a former news executive, a podcaster, developer, and blogger with over 22 years of experience in broadcasting. He was a senior fellow at the Kennedy School of Government in Harvard University and attended the Northern Illinois University and National University of Singapore. He earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in Social and Political Studies and Film and Media Studies at the Federation University Australia, and his master's degree in entrepreneurship with honors from the Asian Institute of Management. He will be moderating the roundtable on Build, Build, Build this afternoon. Secretary Andanar, please.
Thank you, Gary. Executive Secretary Bingbong Medialdea, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, members of the Cabinet, the Economic Cluster and the Infrastructure Cluster, business leaders, our friends from the international and domestic media, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. The main program of the Duterte administration is to grow the economy, reduce poverty, and solve congestion in the Philippines. This is to build, build, and build. Build, Build, Build is the most ambitious infrastructure program in Philippine history driven by President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. We welcome our guests, our development partners, our foreign and local media partners, as well as we all witness together the golden age of infrastructure in the Philippines as it happens now. This is why I am very excited to open the session on Build, Build, Build. We want to show the whole world how serious the Philippine government is in pursuing game-changing projects that will build a whole new experience for every Filipino, for every tourist. With us today are key representatives of the Philippine economic team and heads of agencies that form part of the Build, Build, Build team. Before I give them the floor, please allow us to show you what to expect from Build, Build, Build.
All the best masterpieces start from one line, and a single line begins with a dot. Here in the Philippines, finding and connecting the dots that may lead to our masterpiece already seems a tough task. Too many needs, and they all seem too big to fill. But will we let any of these stop us? The good news is, the government does not stop at anything. This is why DPWH, DBM, DOF, NEDA, DOTR, and BCDA are all working together for the first time in history. 6 agencies committed to deliver the boldest and most ambitious infrastructure development ever. 6 agencies ushering in the golden age of infrastructure, which we call Build, Build, Build. This is the vision that will help us achieve our goals. And today, we put this vision into action. With the NLX SLX connector, you can go from Alabang to Balintawak in only 30 minutes. No need to pass through EDSA anymore, so you can use your time for more important things. NLX will also get an all-elevated expressway in Harbor Link, providing a 10-minute access from Mindanao Avenue to Commonwealth Avenue. We are also building a tide embankment project in Leyte, Visayas, which will protect communities in coastal areas against destructive storm surges. No successful country is without an efficient public transport system. So we are extending our trains with PNR North that goes to Clark, and PNR South, which will connect Manila to Los Baños. Explore Davao, Surigao, and Cagayan de Oro without the hassle via the Mindanao Railway. The upcoming Mega Manila subway will also help decongest the roads. For Phase 1, we are connecting Quezon City and Taguig, with more still coming down the road. With the BGC to NAIA bus rapid transit system, you can go from Fort Bonifacio to NAIA in only 20 minutes. We are also expanding the Clark International Airport with new first-class facilities. And the smartest and greenest city in the Philippines is also rising in Clark, which we call the New Clark City, a world-class urban development that will solve Metro Manila's congestion problems. These are but a few of the projects that will blaze a new trail for us, with more coming in the next months and few years. Build for progress, because change only starts through action. Build for tomorrow, because our children deserve a better Philippines. Build with us, and be a guardian of transparency through the Build, Build, Build portal. Visit www.build.gov.ph and stay in the know about all of our game-changing projects. Together, let us build the Philippines.
I am beaming because for the first time in history of the Philippines, the economic team is working together to make for our people. And let me call on stage the members of the economic team. Build, build, build. First is Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea. Secretary Carlos Dominguez of the Department of Finance. Secretary Mark Villar of the Department of Public Works and Highways. Secretary Ramon Lopez of the Department of Trade and Industry. Secretary Art Tugade of the Department of Transportation. Secretary Benjamin Jokno of the Department of Budget and Management. Secretary Alfonso Cusi of the Department of Energy. BCDA President Vivencio Dizon. And Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. And now, to move on to our much-awaited projects. First, to present the projects under Build, 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 is the DPWH, led by the young and dynamic Secretary Mark Villar.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you very much. Thank you. And it's an honor to be here, and I'd like to start by just saying that what we will present today is a taste of this infrastructure, in line with our President's desire to defeat poverty and bring progress to every corner of our nation. We've embarked on this infrastructure program, which, like they said earlier, is by far the most ambitious infrastructure program in the history of the Philippines. Just to give you an idea, the DPWH will spend approximately 450 billion pesos this year in infrastructure programs. And to give you an idea of the scale of this, or how drastic this change is, if you were to add up the DPWH budget from 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013, it would still be less than how much we'll be spending this year on infrastructure projects. So there's no doubt that this is the most ambitious, and this is just a beginning for us. And also at the same time, I'd also like to say that we are doing this efficiently. We are still maintaining a robust hurdle rate for our economic IRR, for the economic IRR for all the projects, above 10%, which is very efficient. So it's a very efficient use of our resources. And we're very confident that this is the program that will bring us to the next level of development. So here we have a taste. If I were to give you all the projects, we might be here till midnight, so I'll try my best to just give you a taste of what we can come to expect and what we've already seen. What we can see here, this is a project that was launched just in time. We had targeted to finish, I think this is a symbol of what can be done with a successful partnership between the private and public sector. Runway Manila. This is a pedestrian walk going from Naiya 3 to Newport City. This was done at no cost to government with the cooperation of Mega World Corporation. It was finished it started in December and it was finished in April. The crosswalk that you see there was finished in a very fast pace, and just in time, as we had just on schedule, in time for the Asian Summit. So there's a short video just to see the actual runway. Thank you. I remember a few years ago, I distinctly remember it took me 45 minutes to get from one side of the A3 to the other side. So that was a very frustrating experience for me, and it gives me personal pleasure to know that that'll never happen again. So that's the runway. And our next one is the NIA Expressway. This is a project also that was finished this year, and I think that again, it's another symbol of how we can, if we work the private sector, we can finish projects at a very fast pace. Our next phase for this is we are already looking at expanding the NIA Expressway so that from the NIA Expressway, you'll have a portal, you'll have a pathway to go to the fort. You don't have to go down to Magallanes anymore, and this will avoid the traffic of EDSA. So that's what we're working on, to extend the benefits of this NIA Expressway. So that'll be coming this year. We'll start constructing it this year. So this is one of our most ambitious projects for the DPWH. It's a series of 18 projects, highway projects, that are range from private, and some are private, some are public, and we call it the Luzon Spine Expressway Network. And here's the map. You can see all the projects: Tipilex, CLEX, North Luzon East Expressway, Plaridel Bypass, SCTEX, NLEX, HarborLink, NLEX SLEX connector, the South Link, the Cavitex, the SLEX TR4, the Quebex, and the Camsor Expressway. All these projects will connect, are designed to connect the northernmost point of Luzon to the southernmost point. If you go now from Bicol to Manila, it'll take you 12 hours. On a bad day, it'll take you 16. When this spinal network of roads is finished, you can go from La Union to Bicol in less than 12 hours. We are targeting to finish this. We will finish this by the end of this President's administration. You can see we'll be groundbreak with the TR4. We're already beginning the TR4. We're already advanced stage for the planning for the Quezon-Bicol Expressway. We'll also be creating a highway on the east to bring development also to that side, Nueva Ecija side. You can see there's the North Luzon East Expressway in the SILEX. Again, this is in line. We will bring progress to every corner of the country, and this is one of the major projects of DPWH that we will finish under the term of President Duterte. And these are just the projects that are included. These are just some pictures, the Tipilex that you saw earlier. It's ongoing to be completed by next year. It'll go all the way to Rosario, the Rosario exit. So once that's finished, you'll be able to go to Baguio in less than 3 hours. The NLEX SX connector, which was awarded this year. There are two projects that are bypass roads for EDSA. The NLEX SX connector and the Skyway extension. The Skyway extension will be finished by next year. The NLEX SX connector road will be finished by 2021, but we're targeting to finish it by 2020. And there's a short video we have a short video for the connector road, which was just awarded under this administration. It's a project in partnership with Metro Pacific. The Harbor Link, which we're targeting to finish by the end of this year. Once this is done, trucks from the port no longer have to go through EDSA or C5. They can go straight to NLEX using the Harbor Link. From Manila to NLEX using the Harbor Link is only 10 minutes. We've already cleared the R10 road in preparation for this project. The Calax, that's going from Cavitex to the Mamplasan exit in Laguna. This will create a new growth corridor for the Laguna and Cavite area. The SILEX, Central Luzon Expressway, connecting Cabanatuan to Tarlac, the SILEX, and scheduled to be complete in 2020. And this is also for Metro Manila. Like they said, every day we lose 2.4 billion pesos. We'll be constructing 12 bridges across the Pasig River. We've already, 2 of these bridges will be donated by China at a cost of $70 million through one of their grants. We'll also be creating a bridge, starting a bridge this year. It's called the Santa Monica Bridge, connecting Fort to Ortigas. We're already in advanced stage for planning for the other bridges, and we'll be finished by 2021, if not earlier. The Bacolod Economic Highway, just to show that these major ticket projects are not limited to Luzon, Metro Manila. We have major projects in all regions across the country. An example of this is the Bacolod Economic Highway, creating a new growth corridor coming from the airport. It's a 4-lane highway, for the first highway that will incorporate bike lanes, pedestrian infrastructure. Of course, we all know what happened in Yolanda. We're investing heavily in disaster risk management. One of these projects is the Leyte Tide Embankment Project. It stretches about 20 kilometers. It's a major project that eventually will also become a major tourism attraction. So we're designing it again with a strong pedestrian component. We know about the traffic in Cebu. We've already in advanced stage of planning for the Metro Cebu Expressway, a project that will solve the long-term traffic in Metro Cebu. This is a approximately 70-kilometer expressway going from Danao to Naga. And I'd just like to say this is an advanced stage of study. We're already doing some of the surveying for the right-of-way. So we will begin funding this by next year. Again, this is one of our bridges from our bridge program in Mindanao, the Pangil Bay Bridge program. This is to connect Misamis Occidental to Lanao del Norte. This is also starting next year and will be completed by 2021. The Mindanao Development Road Network, this is a more than 80 billion peso series of projects designed to improve the logistics and the movement of goods and services across all of Mindanao to improve the peace and order. These are part of this road network is also master planned by JICA in order to service also areas that are affected by peace and order issues. This is also a very ambitious master plan that we will implement during the term of our president. And of course, the Davao City bypass. Davao City being one of the major centers of growth in the Mindanao, this is, again, a long-term solution to the congestion issues in Davao City. This is already a funded project. So these are some of, again, this is just a taste of some of the projects that we have. We have, like I said, like we said earlier, these projects are posted in the Build, and we seek the maximum transparency in the implementation of all these infrastructure projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary Mark Villar. And just to inform everyone that we are already trending #1 on Facebook and trending #2 on Twitter. So if you can ask your network, our business leaders here, to tweet more, so we will see Mike though. so we'll trend #1 on Twitter. Also, we would like to say good evening to our viewers on Facebook. This is the first time that the Presidential Communications is multi-streaming in 11 different platforms on Facebook. So magandang gabi po sa lahat ng mga OFW na nanonood sa atin ngayon lahat. Why don't we give them a big round of applause, yung mga OFWs natin. Hello. Our next speaker is the dynamic, passionate, and very, very committed Secretary of DOTR, Secretary Art Tugade. Take it away, sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening to everyone. Unlike the presentation which we have done last week, my presentation today sits on a platform that is expanded and multiple. Last week we presented to you the projects of the Department of Transportation that were basically centered on rails. Basically, we presented to you the plans which we seek to achieve insofar as enhancing mobility and guaranteeing continuity, the critical success factor in wanting to have development of the country. Today, I will walk you through to certain projects that are not only planned, but projects that are already being implemented and about to be completed. I will walk you through to certain activities not limited to rail, but it will encompass connectivity and mobility that is apropos to airline travel, air travel, to maritime travel, to road travel. Having said this, let's walk together and take a glimpse of what I'm talking about. First is the airports. Of course, of late you have seen, and please accept, that there have been development insofar as service and structures and mobility at the airport. In fact, we have received commendations from the various airlines expressing their congratulations on the improved punctuality of air travel. Let us go to specific about improvements and projects that are to be completed. First is the Puerto Princesa Airport. This airport has been initiated some 5 years back. There were delays. there were problems. But when the Duterte administration came in, we pushed the project. And the pushing will result to formally inaugurating the Puerto Princesa Airport in the first week of May this year. This airport is designed to accommodate 2 million passengers annually and involve the cost of 4 billion on an ODA platform. Next. The next is the new Bohol Panglao Airport. This is designed to accommodate 2 million people, passengers annually. The project is ongoing. In fact, you will see flash on the screen are the groundworks being done now. It is targeted to be completed by June of 2018 with a project cost of 2 billion on a platform of ODA. And of course, the Mactan International Airport. If you have visited Cebu lately, you would have experienced and have seen by yourself the great improvement that was born and begotten, or being born and begotten, at the Mactan Cebu International Airport. The expansion and the continuing development of the Mactan International Airport in partnership with private business is presently ongoing and completed by 2018 with a cost of 14 billion on a platform of ODA. You will see on the screen certain developments and groundworks that are being done to show that this project is not just a drawing project, but a real project of 2018. Ito ho, matatapos next year. Not to be relegated or forgotten is the Bicol International Airport. We have already started improving on the groundworks. The Bicol Airport will help decongest the crowded Legazpi Airport and will boost arrival and help make Albay an economic powerhouse. This project is ongoing right now. Groundworks are being done. The runway is almost completed. The terminal will soon be put up, targeted for completion year June 2018. You would have observed in the presentation that the projects that are bound to be completed are not in Metro Manila. They are out there in the Visayas and Mindanao, out there in Bicol. This shows that the Duterte administration is doing a multiple expanded growth, not limited to Metro Manila. In addition to all this airport, what is being done right now is to make as many airports as can be, and there are around more or less 40 airports right now, to be night-rated capacity airports. When the administration of President Duterte assumed, there were 13 or 14 night-rated airports. As of today, we are doing 19 night-rated airports, and by 2 years, 2019, we hope that we will add additional 4 to 6 additional night-rated airports. It is targeted that by the end of the Duterte administration, most, if not all, of the 40 airports will be night-rated. You can, of course, appreciate that by doing this airport night-rated, you can help decongest NAIA operation because there will be flight at nights. And of course, understandably so, you would have enhanced the connectivity and mobility between all these provinces in the Republic. This we are going to announce for the first time. In addition to creating and developing airports and doing night-rated capacity. We advise you that we are about to complete and put into operation what we call the Communication Navigation System Surveillance Air Traffic Management System, CNS/ATM. This is located at the CAAP office. When the Duterte administration assumed there were 4 radars, or 5 radars working and operational. As of today, this year, your government has completed the installation of 13 radars spread over different areas in the Republic that are connected and interoperable with the CNS and ATM. In other words, travel will be more definite, identification of aircraft will be more established, and more importantly, safety and security is guaranteed. I think we have some slides showing. Walang slides? Walang slides. Next forum will give you the slides. Hindi, yung mismong video ng this is real. Before it becomes operational, and if you want to see, I will clear you and you can see the facility. And then you will feel as a traveling passenger that you are safe once you enter the territory of the Republic of the Philippines. And then you will feel proud that you have a facility like this in the Republic. I have to make it very, very clear, though, that this was not started and initiated during the term of President Duterte. This was started in the previous terms, but it was mothballed for almost 2 years or even 2 years. When we assumed, we saw the need and the importance of this facility, and then we push and push and push, so that now you have the 13 radars, and then now you have this facility, and then now this facility, interconnected and interoperable, will be formally in operation and actual operation before the end of this year. So we have taken a glimpse of what we are doing with air travel. Let us again take a second glimpse of what we are doing insofar as rail is concerned. Of course, there is the North Railway, more commonly referred to as the Manila to Tuban-Clark Railway. This, hopefully, will be started constructions and awarded at the latest, the first quarter of next year. This project will be completed in the fourth quarter of 2021. No more of the so-called narrow gauge. It will be standard gauge. No more of the so-called platform of talk. Matagal lang pinag-uusapan to eh. Now it is built. You know? So this will come into fruition and materialize at the cost of estimated 255 billion. Length is around 98 kilometers. Travel time will be less than 1 hour from Manila to Clark. Imagine the importance and the value of this railway when you view this railway in relation to the improvements at the Clark Airport, which will be explained later on by President Vince. And imagine further the effect when President Vince will explain to you the connectivity that will be designed between Clark and Subic. Given the SETEX and the highway, given the railroads, and given the airport and the seaport of Subic, then you could say that in that part of central Luzon, you have actually developed an economic hub that is predicated on what we term as a logistics supply chain hub. And by any language, economic development now, supply chain and economic hub are the game changers in the development of any country. Next is, watch the train. Okay, if you have north, we have south. And we have the South Railway so that you have a full complementation of north and south. And we have the South Railway, which is full range of Manila and Bicol. Hopefully, it will cater to handling 400,000 passengers per day on opening year. This is 650 kilometers. The first phase will be from Tutuban to Calamba to Los Baños, and then Los Baños down to south. You will see that then you will have an integrated railroad system satisfying the requirements of both the north and the south. This project hopefully will start by 2018 with a cost of 270 billion estimated on an ODA platform to be completed 2021 before the end of the term of President Duterte. And if you have the north and the south, to really complete the railroad system in the Republic, we have the Mindanao Railway. The complete Mindanao Railway consists of approximately 2,000 kilometers. It has been mandated that the projects that have been initiated must be completed within the term of the President. Initiated during the term of the President, completed within the term of the President. Therefore, the observation is, how can you complete 2,000 kilometers in a period of 5 years? What we will complete is the first phase, which will include the Tagum-Davao-Digos run, a 105-kilometer rail designed to accommodate 120 passengers per day on its opening year. This first phase hopefully will be started on the third quarter of 2018 and targeted for completion by 2022. Estimated cost is 36 billion on the platform of GAA. Here is, you will see the indications on circumferential line, and then you will see, that's a train. You know. Yeah. Warm train. You know. The indicative temporary spar lines is seen on the screen. Oh, hindi ba maganda? You know? But then we talk about railroads, we talk about aircraft, we talk about airline. For the first time, you will hear and we will talk and we will do the Mega Manila Subway. This Mega Manila Subway will translate travel time from Quezon City to Taguig in just 31 minutes. To accommodate 370 passengers per day on opening day. 370,000 passengers per day on opening day. This project will start to be done on the fourth quarter of 2019 and targeted for completion 2024. Now, to give you a spice and an indication na ito hindi bola-bola, it has reached already an advanced stage of feasibility project completion. In fact, JICA, together with the people working with us, have agreed on a target day when the agreement between Japan and the Republic of the Philippines on this Mega Manila subway will be formally signed this November between Prime Minister Abe and President Duterte. Next slide, please. These are the stations where the subway will pass through. Initially, it will cover 13 or 14 stations. The number escapes me now. But we are planning to put in NAIA. As we discuss this, we will put NAIA. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mega Manila subway. The additional icing on the cake will be a 23-kilometer mass transport railway system connecting Quezon City to San Jose del Monte to have a ridership of 420,000 passengers per day on the time of start operation. Hopefully, this will be completed by 2020. It is presently ongoing with a project cost estimated of $1 billion on a PPP. So with this, you can say, with the railway project of the Duterte administration, sa salitang Tagalog, sir, completos recados. Siyempre. Okay, and then of course, we'll have the ongoing LRT1 Cavite extension that can accommodate 400,000 passengers per day, completed October 2021, project cost 65 billion. Complementing LRT1 will be LRT2. LRT Line 2 East Extension from Santolan to Antipolo. 13.8-kilometer line extending Santolan to Antipolo, which will have a ridership of 180,000 passengers per day on actual operations completion by, in 2 years, 2019, project cost 10 billion. Andito na yung common station. Siyempre, kung kailangan mo ng tren, merong tren, may tagpuan. Yung tagpuan, ang tawag common station. Siyempre. Ang target ho dito, umpisah natin, ma'am, sa December, sir. Yung mga stakeholders. Meron hong mga usap-usapan. Yung dati, 7,000 square meters yata yun. Ito ho, 13,000 square meters, doble. Kaya ho nadagdagan yung cost. But for the first time, if at all, it shows the oneness and cooperation of the business circle. They Taipans all to be united in an endeavor to have a project like this. Why do we say this? Before the agreement on the common station was signed, the principal parties did not come. We're not singing the same music. There was even a case pending at the Supreme Court. But then, with the Duterte administration coming in, they say, no more differences. Kapit-bisig tayo. Sama-sama, itayo natin yung common station. Sila ho yun. Sama-sama na tayo dito. Para tapusin natin to sa 2019. Okay? Kung merong mga ganyan, may kailangan din natin ng mga terminals. Kasi madami nagtatanong. And we have been very quiet about this. If you will remove all these terminals at EDSA, if you will remove all these terminals in Pasay, where the hell do you put all these buses? We have a plan to put integrated terminals around Metro Manila and the outskirts, two of which is what we call the Southwest Integrated Transport System in Parañaque. This will allow intermodal facility that will provide seamless transfers for the passengers with fixed departure schedules and centralized ticketing system for provincial buses. Talaga hong terminal ito. Hindi yung paradahan ng mga bus. The in and out are all programmed by electronic and centralized computer system. Hopefully, this will be completed in April of 2018 with a project cost of 3 billion on a platform of PPP. Another terminal that is, sir, Taguig. Si Mayor. Matutuloy na ho ito. Matagal din na binbin. Because now the private parties are coming to fore and coming to agreement. Sir, pwede ko bang yung Taguig, i-issue na yung no objection. Itutuloy na to. Tuloy-tuloy na to. At matatapos ito, hopefully completed March 2019. Kita mo, I can put people on the spot. Kaya ko siya pinaupo sa kaliwa ko. But levity aside, Senator Cayetano has always been there, active, proactive in showing his trust, faith, full support and cooperation in the Duterte administration. Kaya nga ho, meron yun. Salamat, sir. Project cost 2 billion, platform PPP. We'll also be doing the BRT. It's now on the final stage of finalizing the feasibility study. Hopefully, all the kinks on the feasibility study and the financial package will be completed, and we can start by 2019 and finish the first BRT in 2021. This BRT from EDSA Ayala Avenue Ortigas will complement the BRT which will be put up by BCDA from BGC to NAIA. Ipipresenta ho di President Vince mamaya. So that when the President Duterte's term will finish, you will see in Metro Manila 2 BRT. One at EDSA, the other at BGC to NAIA. Completion date for this is 2021. Project cost of 38 billion, platform ODA. Cavite Gateway Terminal. Only last week, we inaugurated the first barging terminal to be situated in Tansa, Cavite, involving 6-hectare property. What does this mean? Let me explain it in layman's term. You see the containers plying the streets? We have devised a system wherewith the containers, part of that estimated 140,000 TEUs on the first year, will not travel the streets, but will go barging. The connectivity will be the export processing zone and the business circle in Laguna and Cavite. Magbabarge ho yan papuntang Cavite sa dagat, sa tubig. Walang color coding. Kaya maganda yung takbo. Pinangako ho ni Mr. Rason ITSI, tatapusin at matatapos ito operational by the first quarter next year, 2018. So you can see that this will also add to the decongestion efforts and project to ease congestions or settle congestions in Metro Manila, the Cavite Gateway Terminal, Tansa Cavite. There will also be various port modernization projects. In the interest of time, kasi tingin na ng tingin ng relo si Kwan, si moderator, makikita nyo yung mga ports, Iloilo, Cagayan de Oro, General Santos, Basco, nandoon. Why? Very simple, no-brainer. The Philippines is an archipelago. You want connectivity? You can connect by air, you can connect by sea, you can connect by rail. But more importantly, being archipelagic, you will have to traverse water. And therefore, you will have to go port to port. To do this, you have to satisfy two factors. Number one, to build the physical port. And number two is to bring in the transportation equipment, which initially will be along the lines of RORO, roll-on, roll-off. This port development modernization program are presently ongoing. Hopefully, before the end of President Duterte's term, we would have connected as many provinces within our archipelago by creating ports connected through RORO. Once you do this, you do not only move passengers and people, but more importantly, move products and food. When you are able to do this, then you are able to reduce the cost of food and product because one of the major is travel. Kaya maiibsan ho yan. These are the developments for port. Ikaw na, sir. Pinutol na ako. Ikaw na. Pinutol? Let's have forum number 3. We will give you more. Meantime, naputol, sir.
Napakadami pong proyekto under the Dutertenomics and Build. Napakadaming airport, mga kalsada, riles. Pero ang problema ho, paano kung walang power? Kung walang kuryente? Kaya para sagutin po ang katanungan yan, to answer that question of power, we have Secretary Alfonso Cusi of the Department of Energy, sir.
Okay, good evening. Tama yun. That's correct. The train won't run. The rudders will not work without the energy. And that's why I'm here, because energy is needed to support all of these infrastructures. And of all these plans, the rails, the subways, the port developments, the airports, from this 2016 to 2030, what is needed is something like 17,300 megawatts. And to support the Ambition 2040, we need additional power of something like 26,000 megawatts from 2030 to 2040. So a total of 43,000 megawatts from 2016 to 2014 in support of the projects. Roughly, what is this power plants requirement will all be coming from the private sector. And the investment required is something like, for the first 17,000 megawatts is something like $50 to $55 billion. And for the next 26,000 megawatts is equivalent to probably another 70 or 80,000 billion dollars. So that's the role of DOE, and its DOE's mandate is to create an environment. Since we are not building power plants, we create an environment, we create a policy to ensure energy reliability, affordable electricity, and to protect the public interest. So it will support the infrastructure projects under the ambition up to 2040. Next slide. Do you have another slide? So this is an LNG terminal that is being planned already for Batangas. This will support the 3,200 power plants that is running now on natural gas in Batangas, and which is expected to be depleted between 2022 to 2024. So this project should have been done much earlier. So we're rushing this project. This is something like 100 billion, and this is supposed to. We have to complete this between 2019 to 2020. The agency that is leading this project is PNOC, and they are currently evaluating prospective partners. The Visayas Mindanao connectivity. We need this very badly for energy sharing and energy security. Mindanao now has a sufficient energy, and we cannot export that to Visayas and Luzon, which need additional reserve because of lack of connectivity. This has been pending for more than 10 years, and now the Duterte administration is rushing this, and we are thinking of using the Malampaya Fund to build, to connect this. This is something like 52 billion, so that we don't have to pass it on to the consumers. We don't have to burden the consumers with additional charges in transmission or wheeling charges. And Simirara, to have an inclusive development and inclusive growth, it's not only the grid area that we are looking at, but including all the island provinces, the off-grid area. So we are now in the process of putting this Simirara to Mindoro, a mine mouth project to supply power to Mindoro, which will bring down the price of electricity hopefully by half, because the island provinces are supplied are running on diesel fuel, which is very expensive. The logistical nightmare for the delivery or transport of diesel to these island provinces. So with this mine mouth power plants, this will reduce cost and assure reliable source of energy. Project cost is around 8 billion, and this will be completed. No, this is not to be completed 2018, but something 2019, 2020. And to encourage private sector investment in the energy sector, the following is being pursued. This one is the potential investment by the private sector in the energy sector. 51 billion up to 2030 and $130 billion to 2040 for power generation. Next slide, please. Wala na.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I give the
Secretary Cusi. We are now trending #1 on both Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for the support. Lahat natin mga leading businessmen dito. Later on, for those who would want a copy of the presentation, we have a kit outside. It's in a flash drive, and you can have the presentation. And there is also a Dutertenomics bumper sticker. So if you can please stick it on your bumpers, or wag sa noo. sa inyong mga windshield or sa rear shield, and it would really be great. Our fourth speaker is a man who does not need any introduction, the President and CEO of the Basis Conversion and Development Authority, Mr. Vince Dizon.
Thank you very much. Hello. Thank you very much. Before I go into the details of the projects under BCDA, I just wanted to say just one thing, that I think what a forum like this shows is a word that we need in order to make all of these things happen, and that word is unity. No, and I think the presence of the key cabinet members here, Senator Cayetano, and the other agencies under the Build, Build, Build program shows everybody, the media, the private sector, that the entire Duterte administration is unified to make sure that our people benefit from all of these projects. But more than this, I think what this forum shows is that unity extends to everybody, including the private sector, which Secretary Tugade talked about earlier. And we thank the captains of industry who are here, our biggest businessmen and women who are here for coming and showing their unity with each other and also with the government to make sure that our country benefits from all of these in the soonest possible time. So with that, I'll start with the Clark International Airport. So this is an airport that has long been studied and long been planned. Secretary Tugade, who was president of Clark Development Corporation, has dreamt about this. But I think the key point that Secretary Tugade mentioned earlier and that our economic managers talked about is that all these projects are not standalone. They all work together. They're all interconnected in order to deliver the best possible service to the people. And the Clark International Airport is one of these projects that is linked to the other projects, such as the PNR North from Manila to Clark, such as the Subic-Clark Railway, which I'll talk about in a bit, and to all the other road projects in the Luzon Spine program of DPWH. And I wanted to show you the master plan for this project para po makita natin na hindi na ito drawing lang. No? This is the Clark International Airport, for everybody's information, is 2,400 hectares. To put that into perspective, the entire NAIA complex is 650 hectares. So this is 4 times the size of NAIA. No, that's why we have more land to work with and we have more room for expansion. The French government provided a grant to the Philippine government way back in 2012, and they chose Aéroports de Paris to do the master plan. Secretary Tugade and I were there in Paris just a few weeks ago, and we spoke to Aéroports de Paris, and we assured them that the master plan of Aéroports de Paris would be implemented within the Duterte administration. So the master plan is from phase 1 to phase 4. It builds up Clark from 8 million passengers per year to 80 million passengers per year in the ultimate phase. And this is the ultimate phase. If we could just maybe click on everything already so that everybody sees the key components of the ultimate phase under the French master plan. So 80 million passengers per year, 4 terminals with a transport hub in the middle of all the terminals, just like what you see in Singapore, in Changi, in Hong Kong, and in other world-class airports all over the world. You have a MRO facility, which by the way now houses SIA MRO. You have a express freight terminal facility. You have a cargo facility. You have a FBO and general aviation facility, and also 200 hectares reserved for a mixed-use airport city. So this is the entire Clark Airport master plan. The Duterte administration commits to build the first phase, which calls for an expansion to 8 million passengers per year with a new world-class terminal, a transportation hub with all the trains, Manila to Clark, Subic Clark, connected to the airport, and with a rail connection to the new city we are building in Clark. So our schedule here is to break ground, meaning shovels on the ground by the fourth quarter of this year, and the new terminal to be completed by end of 2019 or early 2020. The next project is, as Secretary Tugade pointed out earlier, is part of the overall Metro Manila BRT system. But this is a system connecting Bonifacio Global City, Fort Bonifacio, to NAIA, to the NAIA complex. Since both BGC and parts of NAIA stand on BCDA land, then we offered our assistance and our support to DOTR so that we can build this right away, since there are no right-of-way issues here. So I wanted to show you the feasibility study is ongoing, and I wanted just to give you a glimpse of the stations and the alignments. And I just wanted to acknowledge our partners in FBDC and MegaWorld, who have helped us, develop this plan. Really, one of the things we are very proud of in the Duterte administration is that we are really seriously working together with our private sector partners to make sure that all of these projects happen. So this is the alignment within Bonifacio Global City. These are the stations. The goal here is that if you are a commuter and you get off in a station, it will only take you 5 minutes to walk to your place of work. Now, that is the goal of the BRT design for BGC. We can move on. This is now the alignment along Loton Avenue and the McKinley West area all the way to Pasong Tamo Extension, and then leading us all the way down to NAIA and all the way to the LRT1 station, which is already very close to NAIA. So I think what is different with the kind of planning that the Duterte administration is doing is we are not doing things piecemeal. Hindi po yung papachi-pache, na madalas nangyayari sa atin, sa Pilipinas. So we are trying to connect everything so that if we were an orchestra, every part of the orchestra sings in harmony, and we don't sing and play out of tune. So that is, I think, the hallmark of the kind of leadership that President Duterte has. And this is the NAIA. This will be from Bonifacio South to Pasong Tamo. It's red. We marked it red just to emphasize this is all underground. This is the plan here, because as you're very familiar with this place, there is no way we can build above ground here. I mean, and Secretary Tugade is going to kill me because he's going to be hit with issues of traffic again, if we start building underground. And our people will probably, continuously curse at us if we build above ground. So this will all be underground from Pasong Tamo Extension, from Bonifacio South all the way to LRT 1 Extension. Oh, by the way, the NAIA Terminal 3, as we discussed with Secretary Villar, will connect, that station over there will connect to Runway Manila, so that we can have an easier and more comfortable connection underground to Runway Manila all the way to NAIA 3. Okay, the next one is the Subic-Clark Railway project. So this is primarily a cargo rail connecting Subic Seaport to Clark Airport. Secretary Tugade has been talking about this for the past several years, but sadly it fell on deaf ears. But now we will be building this railway very, very soon. I think the target start date is also the fourth quarter of 2017, and completion is 2020. And this is the initial alignment. Now, we're doing the feasibility study now. It should be completed in a few weeks. This is the initial alignment. So it will connect not only the airport, but from all the way to the new city we're building in New Clark, all the way to the port in Subic. So in order to avoid issues of double handling, it really has to terminate in the port so that the containers go straight from the vessels to the rail. Okay, can we move this? So New Clark City. This is the actual site, and This is what we envision New Clark City to be. The most modern, the smartest, the greenest city in the entire country. Comparable to the smartest and greenest cities in the world. And it's really the most ambitious project, not only of BCDA, but I think of the government, because really building a city, as our friends and our partners in the development industry know, is no easy task. But we really believe that this is the long-term solution to the Metro Manila problem. Because the only way to solve the congestion in Metro Manila is really to develop other places outside. And we feel Clark is ripe for this sort of development. And just to give you some updates on this, the master plan for this is, the master plan for this is already in its final stages of completion. This is being done by our partners. Of course, we are doing this with the Japan Overseas Network for Infrastructure Development, and AECOM out of their office in Singapore, and Nippon Koi are our partners for this. So we can really expect a world-class city. And the phase one will really be the first block will really be the area that was won by Philinvest Land, 288 hectares, the mixed income housing, and the future National Government Center, which Secretary Ben Jokno is very excited about. By the way, if I can just again speak for Secretary Tugade, Secretary Tugade will not only talk the talk, but also walk the walk. And he will be the first national agency to move to Clark in July of this year. He will move to Clark, July of this year. In fact, I was finished or not finished, he will move to Clark. Obviously, he will not move to New Clark City because that's still being developed, but he will initially move to the main zone in the Freeport, and then eventually, since he was the first mover to Clark, he will have the first and probably one of the best offices there in the new city. And then I wanted to show you, if we could go back, that hindi po ito drawing lang. No? We are actually building the roads there already, and this is actual construction ongoing. And if we can just show a short drone video of actual construction going on. So these are now the roads, of course, with the help of DPWH. These are the initial roads that are being built. This is the road we are building across the Sacobia Valley, 15 kilometers to connect the airport to the new Clark City. So, this is, and we are very excited about this. No, even the roads in the new Clark City will be the first of their kind in the country. They will be the first of their kind. They will have wide pedestrian lanes, exclusive bicycle lanes. Obviously, the carriageways for the cars will be there, but they are already being designed with mass transport already as part of the plan from the very beginning. So this is how the roads will look like in the new Clark City, and we are already building them as we speak. So we plan to finish, and this is a rendering from AECOM of how we envision the new Clark City to look like several years from today. So I think with that, hopefully we get the support that we need from the private sector and of course from the government agencies. So on behalf of BCA, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vince. Now the common question is, there's so much trillions of pesos going in and out of the country, mostly 8 trillion pesos going in the country for development, and the question of transparency. So the Duterte administration is committed to a corruption-free government to ensure that everyone is informed and that everyone and everything is transparent. The brilliant presidential, oh, he's not here. So let me do this myself. I will tell you about the website www.build.gov.ph. Okay, noting the Duterte administration's commitment to transparency and governance, the government has created the Build portal, www.build.gov.ph. It is a real-time tool where projects are monitored and tracked with relevant information made available to everyone. It is a manifestation of the Duterte government's commitment to ensure that all these projects will be corruption-free. You can all view the game-changing projects under the Build program. As an example, we have the NLEX SLEX connector. You can see the status of implementation in this construction is ongoing, and the target completion date, which is September 30, 2020. You can also show how you feel about the projects by clicking one of the emoticons below. You can access the latest news about the Build program on the news page. And you can also look at the success stories from the agencies concerned. Also, there are some video materials available about the various projects. So if you want to stay in the know about these projects and monitor them from start to finish, please visit www.build.gov.ph. And now to end, before we have the Q&A, I would like to give the microphone to the Department of Trade and Industry Secretary Mon Lopez to close the session before we go into the Q&A.
Okay, thank you, and good evening, everyone. I know this is quite a difficult task. We're supposed to end before 7:30, but with Q&A. So allow me just to connect all these fantastic infrastructure projects, how it connects now to business and people. Obviously, these infrastructure projects will really make the quality of life better for many Filipinos. It will lower also the cost of doing business, the cost of logistics, and really lead to better efficiencies now in the business sector. Not to mention the favorable macroeconomic environment presented earlier, the fundamentals of demographic dividends that we are now experiencing, and an advantage really for the Philippines, market access, attractiveness of locating, investments locating in the Philippines. All these are driving further investment inflows. And at the end of the day, this will really redound to creating more opportunities to empower the Filipinos. And this is really what, at the end of the day, Dutertenomics is all about, empowering the Filipinos and bringing prosperity for all. Next chart, please. We in the DTI, as we connect to business, industry, investments, and trade, our slogan is very simple. Magbigay ng oportunidad at abilidad para lahat ay umunlad. It's really empowering the Filipinos, bringing all these opportunities, empowering them, capacity building, human development, so that we bring prosperity for all. Uplifting the quality of life of Filipinos, addressing inequality, creating industries that are innovative, job-generating, and inclusive. Thank you. Next. We've seen some numbers, very good growth rate, and that's the reason why we're creating this growth momentum, showing 6.8% growth, and a growth that is really backed up by solid growth from manufacturing, which used to grow by 2 to 3%, and now we're hitting 8%. Manufacturing sector is creating decent jobs for many of our countrymen. That, again, is creating job opportunities. Next. Human capital advantage is what many investors see in us. English-speaking, honesty with integrity. You see less of industrial spice. Filipinos are known to be resourceful, creative. We have a rich talent pool, educated, and you can see there, although they're in small fonts, mostly business graduates, social, engineering and architecture, science and technology, IT-related graduates. Next. bright spot also. We've been, because of all these things happening, and more so we will see more of this as we get to implement and see all of this infrastructure. Many of these are also considered economic infrastructure that will really make Philippines a very attractive investment haven. And just recently we pushed for a stronger momentum, 7.9 billion FDI, that's about 41% growth. Our recent record, January to April, the latest number for the Board of Investment, registered 31% growth. We used to hit only single digit in the past. Next. Of course, what the investors also see is a great, large market that we have. So 101 million Filipinos, but since we're part of the ASEAN Economic Community, locating in the Philippines gives them a gateway to the ASEAN market, and that's 620 million population or market. The nice thing is ASEAN, and we in the Philippines, part of ASEAN, ASEAN is a partner with 6 other dialogue partners. You have Korea, Japan, India, China, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand. All in all, 3.5 billion market, a much larger market from the 620 million. And that's about 1/2 already of the world's population and 1/3 of the world's economy. Not to mention also that locating in the Philippines gives them access, GSP preferential treatment to US and to EU. That means 0% tariff on products that are produced in the Philippines to markets like US and EU. Next, please. And of course, with all this very good thing happening, the economic momentum, infrastructure development that we've seen, the demographic sweet spot, rapid trade and investment growth momentum, the social infrastructure, human capital, the ASEAN RCEP, GSP, market access, plus, I would say in the recent months, we've seen how our president has worked beyond securing peace and order, law. He is our greatest trade and investment ambassador. Whenever he sees his counterpart, the leaders, he's the one promoting export, telling them to buy more of our Philippine products, telling them, why not invite your investors to look into the Philippines? We have so much to offer. And because of that independent foreign policy, it allows us now to open doors and strengthen the ties. Countries we've never really got close before. I mean, China, Russia, stronger ties with Middle East, and we've just finished our Middle East tour last Holy Week. We were having meetings during Good Friday and Easter Sunday, while others are enjoying in the beaches. But that's fine with us. And of course, strengthen the relationship with Japan. And just to give you an example, maybe we can look at the next slides. Yes, just for China alone, the market we've opened up, business to business, 15 billion commitment, 250,000 new jobs. We've mentioned also the ODA and grants that China has allocated for the country, $9 billion. And this is not all, just a commitment. We just signed actual purchase orders or POs. No? So actual orders ito, $1.7 billion worth of agriculture and non-agriculture products. These are really for exports, the mango, bananas, pineapples, and that means more jobs, more income for farmers that are producing all these orders from China. The good thing here is that because, again, of that good relationship led by our president and President Xi Jinping, China now, whenever we export and would have, let's say, encounter problems on products, before, products get to be banned, and then exporters get to be suspended. Now they say, if you don't meet standards, we will send experts, technical experts, to help you meet the standards. Iba ang panahon ngayon. So if you are a friend, they'll really help you. And that's the beauty of the current relationship we have. You have a problem, we'll send you technical experts so that all your products can be exported to China. Not to mention the 10.4 billion, again, another B2B ventures in iron and steel, gasification projects, and many more. Food processing and agriculture. And also more concrete business matching, micro SMEs. connecting our SMEs with their SMEs. And this we've done with our counterpart, and I remember even the Vice Premier of China. And yours truly led this business-to-business matching session a few weeks ago. Next. For Japan alone, more business-to-business deals being closed. And again, not just on paper. Recently, we've opened already and launched the Mitsubishi, doing locally the Mitsubishi Mirage G4. We've launched it in Malacanang with the president there and the chairman of Mitsubishi Japan coming over. And pretty soon, Mr. T, Toyota Vios, will be also locally produced. Just last Friday, I attended the opening, one agreement signed in Japan last October, this Nippon Freuhof wing van, all this wing van that you see at the back of pickup trucks will now be locally produced by our friend, entrepreneur, the Juan family, Centro, and they will be locally produced. 14.5 billion investments, commitment, just from Chunichi alone, from Ichijo, and other companies that will create 26,000 new jobs. So again, all this will redound to new jobs, more income for our people, more income for farmers. And then, of course, the Sogo Socias, many of us here in the economic team have met the Sogo Socias when we were in Japan last February. And they all committed close to 200 billion pesos of investments. These are the Mitsui, Marubeni, the Toyota, and other companies and conglomerates. Just again, by opening and that friendship, our president with President Putin, we've opened a bigger export market for our products to Russia. Immediately in that first bilateral meeting we have, Russia committed to buy $2.5 billion of agriculture products, again, benefiting farmers. The current level we have right now is only $40 million. So this is a far cry, $2.5 billion, all new market for our products. Next. And by the way, before we leave Japan, actually there were other items signed, and this is the one led by the group of Injapsia here with the counterpart for egg production that will supply many restaurants, and they've broken ground looking for the facility about to be built, no? And so again, these are not only commitments but actual implementation. And that's the crowd that we had last February in Japan. Next. And then recently in Middle East, we were able to build all these commitments, 925 million. 250 million of these, for example, is in Davao, and actual business already being implemented to be expanding in Sarangani from a 500 hectare in Davao to 10,000 hectares in Sarangani, expanding pineapple and other agricultural products. With the signing also of our investment promotion and protection agreement with Qatar, it opens again a new door for allocating from the Qatar Sovereign Fund $1 billion initially, for starter. And then that fund can allocate more than $1 billion in the years to come. Next. So all this translates to new jobs and business opportunities for micro SMEs. So we have to also equip and make sure that we have a vibrant, innovative, and much powerful micro SME sector. These are not the usual and typical SMEs that we see around, but really entrepreneur-like, smart entrepreneurs. Next. And I'll just simply summarize a lot of efforts we're doing. Essentially, we've adopted the 7M approach, really creating mastery, mindset, the right mentoring through these programs that we do, the centers, negosyo centers. We have 478 negosyo centers scattered around the country, more coaching and business mentoring activities with Kapatid program, with PCCI, George Barcelon, and Go Negosyo, our partner Joey Concepcion, and many other sectors, Federation of Filipino Chinese, AFI and PFA. Access to money. We've launched this microfund program initiated by the President, giving us 1 billion pesos really to eradicate 5-6, the usurious lending, empowering micro entrepreneurs with more funds to back up their business. After you have that product and that financing support, making sure that they have a market for their product. So we've initiated, it's an innovation of creating market access, mainstream market for SME products, the best of SME products, not just a typical SME product, making sure that we provide a market for them, mainstream. So we will be present in SM, thanks to our friends from SM. We were now present. We've opened the first store, big store in Robinsons. Gokong Ways have provided us almost 100 square meter in right down the alley of ground floor where people pass high foot traffic. And so imagine a micro SME products just to be placed in a mall. Normally there's a high listing fee, 1 million pesos to 2 million pesos. Here, they can do it for free. They get all the exposure for a possible volume buyer from foreign or local buyers. And more importantly, their brands get to be known by the mainstream mass market. We provide machines, shared service facilities, again, just to improve the productivity of SMEs and offer different models of negosyo for everyone, really to have that opportunity to be in business. At the end of the day, we provide trabajo, jobs, and for those who cannot find job, definitely there's a negosyo waiting for you. If only you would want to become successful, negosyo is the way. So we provide employment and entrepreneurship opportunities. Last slide. Because empowering the Filipinos, bringing prosperity for all, is really at the end of the day what our president would like to have to eradicate poverty and address inequality. Thank you, and good evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Lopez. We will now open our question and answer session. Now is your chance to put these cabinet members on the spot. So just move over to the mics and identify yourselves. We're also setting aside a special mic for our guests here in this part of the venue, please. We'll start first with Mike Toledo. Here's the mic for you. The mic for Mike.
Thank you very much, Gary. Good to see you after a long time. Again, my congratulations to Secretary Dominguez, of course, and Secretary Martin Andanar for a very successful forum. Perhaps, first of all, I would just like to briefly comment with your indulgence that it is indeed music to the ears of the private sector to hear Secretary Bingbong Meldea say that the Duterte administration will abide by the rule of law and will respect the sanctity of contracts. Because what the private sector and businessmen really abhors is unpredictability. So predictability is indeed key, and we thank you for that. And now to my question, if I may ask my good friend Secretary Cusi, if you could kindly please tell us as briefly as possible, if you can, what exactly is the strategic direction and plans and vision of the Department of Energy as far as the oil and gas sector is concerned. And perhaps as a sub question to that, considering that we have already a warming relations with the People's Republic of China, and also considering that Malampaya is about to expire in a few years, and we all know that, how important that is. It supplies about 30%, if I'm not mistaken, of our power. What exactly will the Department of Energy do with respect to perhaps lifting of the moratorium as far as exploring and developing the Reed Bank, for example? That's just a sub question, Mr. Secretary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. First, on the exploration, the upstream industry, currently there are issues that we are resolving. One of that is the tax issue, the sharing, if that is included already. And I believe that the economic team have already made our position, and we are honoring, as Executive Secretary have mentioned, we will honor the contract and what is stated in the contract. And we are just awaiting the decision from the palace on that stand. And regarding the PECR or the contracting round. Number 5, that has been already conducted, but we have not signed that because of the issue on the tax issue, on the sharing tax issue. And again, we are just waiting for it to be resolved, and we will be concluding that round 5 on that. Then on the petroleum exploration contracting round, or the PECR, we are now preparing for the number 6, so that to really explore and to have that energy security that is needed. So we will pursue that. And I believe your concern is also regarding the suspension of the activity of I think 4 service contract that was suspended in the during the previous administration. We are in the process of having it lifted, and in front of that activity is the DFA. They are taking that lead. So, with regard to the Malampaya, that would be depleted 2024, as presented in the board. As I mentioned earlier, we are putting that putting up that LNG farm to ensure continuity, security of power supply. So aside from the exploration, there is that supply of LNG that will be soon, maybe 2020, as mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Mike. I believe we have a question from Kevin Tan in the audience.
My question is for Secretary Jokno. We've been hearing about a staggering amount of ODAs that we have been getting. I think it's quite record-breaking from what we hear. And with that, of course, I would like to also congratulate the Duterte administration for what I would call a historic achievement in that front. Now, of course, with all these ODAs being given to us by different countries, there's likely a strong chance that the government will choose to embark on some of these projects on their own, or maybe even, as you mentioned, this hybrid PPP. So my question is, what are the opportunities for the private sector? What are the opportunities for the private sectors to come into some of these projects?
Well, there's a lot of opportunities. The hybrid, let's talk about the hybrid. This means that the government will just choose the project, will look for the financing, and then we will let the private sector build the project. Okay? The government does not have the capacity to do that. So that's number one. And then once the project is done, then it's the private sector again who will run the project. It's like the ESITEX model, right? That's number one. Number two, there's also we entertain unsolicited proposal for really innovative projects. Okay, we have opened that avenue. And third, if you're listening to Secretary Kusi, the power energy sector is totally private sector, and we need $50 billion from now till 2030. That's a staggering amount. Okay.
Thank you.
May I just add something? The reason we are reversing the process, in the past administration, they did the PPP from the beginning. When we examined the length of time it took to negotiate the PPP, the average time is 29 months before you start the project. So we're saying, we can do it a bit faster, and secondly, we can also borrow money cheaper, and we can PPP the project at any stage. We can PPP it in the middle, or we can PPP it at the end. Now, we have been in discussions also with a lot of the large retirement funds from abroad. Those guys typically don't want to take the construction risk. For them, they will come in after the project has been already completed. We've talked to people like one fund we've talked to is the CIC, which is China's Wealth Fund. They come in typically towards the end of the project when the construction risks are already past. No? So there's no more construction risk. So in that way, we think we can even attract more funds, or you guys in the private sector can attract more investors in the PPP project if we do it towards the end. So we can borrow money cheaper, we can save time in the negotiations, but eventually we will either sell the project or go into an O&M method. Okay.
Thank you, Secretary Dominguez, Secretary Diokno, Mr. Tan. I believe we also have a question from Mr. Charlie Yu.
May I direct my question to the Finance Secretary, Secretary Dominguez. From the perspective of the President, it appears that what is important to him are social inclusion and economic decentralization. Insofar as economic decentralization is concerned, I think what is presented by the economic team, it's very clear that there is economic centralization that will happen through the infrastructure development. May we know how you are going to operationalize social inclusion? And secondly, insofar as external risks or threats from the country, may we know how prepared we are insofar as the growing economic protectionist policies overseas, as well as the rising interest rates. Thank you.
Okay, just two points. We're looking for inclusivity. Okay, one of our big problems in this country is the large percentage of workers who are underemployed. The unemployed is only about 5 or 6%, but the underemployed is something like 18%. So by doing the infrastructure projects outside of the Mega Manila area, I think we will be creating jobs and bringing in people into the economy. In fact, I was just telling Ben here that if we're lucky, we'll run short of workers. If we're lucky enough to get the projects really going, we will have that problem of success, that we will not have enough workers. That means to say, prices of labor are going to go up. So that's part of economic inclusivity. With regards to the protectionism, you know, our economy doesn't rely on a lot on exports. Just like China did when their growth was slowing down, they looked inward and spent a lot on infrastructure, especially after the Asian crisis, after the meltdown in 2008. The Chinese economy built up their infrastructure, and look where they are at now. So in our case, if we have to do so, that is exactly what we are going to do to protect us from people losing their jobs in the export industry. It's just to create more jobs in another industry, in an area that we need jobs in. Thank you.
Hello. It's just on that protectionism issue also. What we've been hearing are merely rhetorics for now, and they're not translated to actual policies. And we don't think that those will really translate to heavy protectionism policies, because the countries thinking about that would know that these policies will surely backfire on them. And also, the other thing is that's the reason why we are strengthening the regional cooperation, the markets within our region, the RCEP that we talked about, the ASEAN, plus the strength of the markets that we have there, over 1/2 already of the world's population. And just in the Philippines alone, inwardly, we have over 100 million market that we have. And I'd just like to add, with the help of private sector, many groups are helping a lot of inclusive growth, helping MSME products that we mentioned earlier. I failed to mention even the other group helping us, Double Dragon, City Malls, even carrying MSME products now. That's not never happened before. So big companies helping small companies, inclusive growth is really coming.
Just to your point earlier, yesterday or this morning, I read a very interesting article in the New Yorker. And the title is, Will President Trump Ever Learn to be President? In other words, he goes through the number of presidents in the past who have radically changed their views because reality beat them. So I think even Trump is not calling China a manipulator anymore. They're not against free trade anymore. So, you know, there's a big difference between a campaigner and a president.
Yeah, just one quick point on inclusivity. You know, I think the main measure of inclusivity that we want to be measured by, the main barometer, is the kind of projects that we want to build. And as you can see, especially from Secretary Tugade, Secretary Mark, you see that the projects are all related to mass transportation. No, and I think I forgot who said this, but someone very smart said that the measure of progress is not how many people own cars. It's not measured by how many people own cars, but it's measured by how many people use mass transportation. Because mass transportation is really the great equalizer. Because it's for everybody. It's for whether you're rich, poor, it doesn't matter. So I think the mass transportation projects that you have seen, the rail projects, the bridge projects, the roads with bike lanes, with pedestrian lanes, all of these things provide inclusivity. Kasi kung if we just build the same way we've been building, which is what we see now, especially here in Metro Manila, then, you know, I mean, we'll only be building for cars and we won't be building for people. President Duterte wants to build for people.
Thank you, Secretary Lopez, Secretary Dominguez, Mr. Dizon, Mr. Yu. Can we now call on the media to start asking questions instead of just listening?
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm a reporter.
Please identify yourself.
Yeah, my name is Christine. I'm from China, Hong Kong. I'm with South China Morning Post. I value this opportunity very much to ask questions, and I have two questions to ask. Number one is, the Philippines has warmed up relations with China since Duterte president visited Beijing last November. And since then, China and Philippines has agreed many projects. But till now, none projects have been started. Could you tell me what's the reason behind, and is there any timetable to implement? And my second question is about the maritime sea dispute. Will the Philippines raise the maritime sea dispute again after the Chinese projects finished in the future? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. The policy of the Duterte administration is to be friends to all and enemies to none. So all countries who wants to be friends with the Philippines is welcome. Now, the media sometimes packages the dispute in the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea, to be between the Philippines and the China alone. But that's not true. Because Malaysia, Vietnam, Brunei Darussalam, Taiwan, and of course China all have claims in the area. And this year we are hosting the ASEAN. So if we're going to fight all of our neighbors, we're not going to be hosting much. No one's going to come, you know, if we're going to fight everyone. Having said that, if you talk to the experts in the law of the seas, they are not approaching it by how do you solve the dispute there. They're approaching it, how do you manage the dispute there? And that is what the president is trying to do. He is trying to set a region that will be free from terrorism and transnational crime. He's trying to put stability through the ASEAN in the region, and through that, hopefully, we will have a framework of how to deal with each other. Now, question, how come the projects are not all here yet? It is not true that there are no projects that are here yet. The commitments of both Japan and China are in the works, but we have a procurement law. The guidelines are being made. But I'll give you an example. No? The exports of our fruits, we have already not only exhausted our supply of bananas and pineapples, fisheries and everything. No? They have been China's money in terms of the drug rehabilitation, drug programs are already here. So it's all in the works, and it's a mixture of, as Secretary Dominguez said, it's a mixture of concessional loans, of commercial loans, also of grants. No? And of course, the grants, because the procurement law, unless we're going to buy something with that money, but if we're just going to use it directly for the people, is not constrained by the procurement law, it's already being used. No? So let me just assure all ASEAN countries and all of the countries around the world, the Philippines will fight for its claim at the proper venue. We'll deal with the disputes in a bilateral manner, but we will be a good host. No? So we are here to host the ASEAN, to have peace and stability and development in the country, and maybe there will be another venue to discuss these disputes and not the ASEAN.
Thank you, Senator.
I just want
Yes,
to
Secretary.
add, actually, there has already been one very large facility for drug addicts that has been completed in Nueva Ecija. But that is a private sector initiative. And I believe that Secretary Villar mentioned that the first two bridges across the Pasig have already been, are going to start within a few weeks. Now, you should also recall that the meeting between the President of China and the President of the Philippines occurred only 6 months ago. And if you take a look at it, I mean, it's for me, it's as fast as any government-to-government relationship has developed as this 6 months, in this 6 months' time. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. Can we have 2 more questions from the media, please? Gentleman raising his hand, please come to the mic. Gentleman in glasses. Okay, if you won't stand up, please. Okay.
Yeah.
That gentleman then.
Hi, I'm Ricky Ocampo from Beptarsos. We're from the ICEP. I'm very excited because we started with 4 in the BBB and now you're 8 already. My question is really for everyone. No? We have different structures that are already in place. We've already heard about a lot of the big earthquake and the West Valley fault. There's been several earthquakes going on with Davao and other areas, no, Batangas and all of that. What about the existing structures? Do we have anything that we're going to do with these existing structures? Like, are they all sound? Are we also going to fix them? Or are we all moving into new projects that we're having right now? Because there's several, from the airports to the bridges that we have around the city, also in other areas. And of course, with these new projects, I know that you are already dealing with Japan and others that has already been, maybe it's an earthquake thing already, right, with the new structures that we're doing. But what about the old ones?
Yes, just to really briefly answer your questions. All our new structures are rated for typhoons and are seismic rated, all the new structures. That's already That's already the standard that that all actually our construction has set. Now, with regards to the structures that are in the past that have that might be, we're in the process now. We actually were spending almost a quarter of our budget for resiliency programs to prepare us for natural disasters. Included in this are the rehabilitation of all major bridges and all national roads. We've already started that. We've already completed some bridges, the Quezon Bridge in Metro Manila. We're already making plans to rehab the Guadalupe Bridge. At the same time, we're doing an audit of all the school buildings across the country to make sure that all of even the old buildings that are created, were all rated for earthquakes, for seismic rated, especially given the fact that lately we've had a lot of, we seem to have a lot of occurrences of earthquakes. So we are spending a lot, the government is investing a lot in the disaster preparedness, and we will continue to do so. And you know, we never know when the next, we hope the big one never happens, but rest assured the government is spending heavily on preparations for any possible eventuality.
Thank you, Secretary. Last question, please, from the media. Yes, sir.
Malcolm Conlon, UK blogger. With all of this fantastic news we're hearing about the reduction in poverty, improving infrastructure, thus improving the lives of the Filipino people, I would hope that the EU and other Western countries would be congratulating the President and Filipino people and not being critical of some of the policies of the Duterte administration. All of these developments are fantastic news for the country and the some 11 million Filipino workers around the world. My question is, what message can the panel send to those Filipinos around the globe, as well as foreigners who may have heard negative press and bashing from the international media to encourage them to visit the country? Salamat po.
You know, how do you rule, how do you serve, how do you govern 100 million Filipinos in 7,100 islands when it's high tide and more when it's low tide? You know, you have to have faith. And the Bible says faith without action is dead. So having said that, politics is politics. And part of our having a free media is that they're free whether they want the headline to be build, 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 or politics, politics, politics. Now, human rights is very important. It is universal, regardless of culture. But alternative facts and fake news is fake news. All around the world, especially in some liberal media outlets, they keep repeating 7,000 drug war killed, 8,000 drug war killed, 9,000 drug war killed. But they're not using the same apple-to-apple instruments of measurement with the past administration. If you use the same definition for extrajudicial killing in the Aquino and the Duterte administration, then there will be 77,000 extrajudicial killings during the Aquino administration. If you're saying we're killing everybody, well, 50,000 people have been arrested. 2,550 have been killed in police operations. So those are the facts. We'll just have to live with it. You know, a while ago, Secretary Diokno said, you know, we will execute decisively. So what does he mean? What did he mean? He meant we will get the job done. But anyone can put in the paper, Budget Secretary said we will execute them. You know, and that happened to me. In the speech in the Senate, I was explaining they have the wrong facts. Someone from the foreign media based in Beijing, but it's a Western newspaper, put on the Twitter, Cayetano said mass murder is needed to solve the drug trade. So part of the new media, social media, free press, etc., is getting bad press. But let me give back the question to you. No? If Hillary Clinton said it takes a village to raise a child, doesn't it take a nation to change a country? So we have to reflect internally. What are we willing to do, and how will we also drive the media? The people who finance the media are in this room. You advertise with them. So if you want the headlines to continue to be politics, 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 continue supporting them that way. But if you want it to be build, build, and build, then maybe change has to come not only in government, not only in business, but also with our own media. But let's keep the media free because they keep us on our toes. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. As programmed, let me offer up a brief recap of the proceedings this afternoon. As I think you may have seen, Dutertenomics is not just hype, it's not just a slogan. There are very specific principles and values involved in this philosophy of economic governance. One is a very strong focus on building infrastructure, the build, build, build slogan. Because of the size of the economic losses from our infrastructure deficit, the view here is that fixing the infrastructure is a first-order condition for economic growth, and so it will get the appropriate attention. Number two, this team, this government, is prepared to do most of the job itself. Okay? Through the hybrid PPP model, for example, the intention is to de-risk these projects at the front end so that they proceed faster and more efficiently. Number three, the other side of the ledger is comprehensive tax reform. This project will not be built without the tax collections that need to be increased to the reform bill now pending in Congress. Number four, this team intends to borrow as much as needed, even run current budget deficits over the next years, every year, take advantage of fiscal space and ample liquidity in the system to do a lot of domestic borrowings in order to get those projects built. I guess the fifth important takeaway is the fact that we will be having, I think for the first time, an online portal that will allow ordinary citizens to track these projects, keep this team honest, and see for themselves that this is not just going to be PowerPoint presentations. Anybody can do PowerPoints, but this team is prepared to submit itself to public scrutiny in order to get its job done. I want to take off from the Senator's kind mention of the Bible and remind everyone that today is the feast of St. Mark, the evangelist. Perhaps he will take his cue and help to spread the good news about Dutertenomics to the country and to the rest of the world. Maraming salamat po. Before you take off, let me remind the media that dinner for you guys will be at La Fiesta. And for the cabinet and their guests will be at the brasserie. Again, thank you for joining us this afternoon, this evening. Mabuhay po kayong lahat.
May forward CES. May forwards na.
Before you leave, we have parting remarks from the Executive Secretary. Please stay in your seats. Do not leave.
Hello. I'll just end this forum with 4 words. It's build, 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 breakout. Good night. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, yes.
Geopolitics na yun. I brought up that.